Welcome to Bedtime Inspiration. Tonight we will be reading a selection from The Leap, Are You Ready to Live a New Reality by Constance Kellogg. Take some deep, relaxing breaths and find yourself a comfortable position. Close your eyes and let the stress of the day disappear as we explore the theme of finding stillness in this busy world. It's the stillness to hear and connect with your authentic self and to improve the quality of your inner being. Let's begin. Stillness, the foundation for the leap to lasting peace. Faced with the severity of the world's problems, it is easy to succumb to feelings of helplessness and hopelessness. What can an individual do, we wonder, about disputes between nations, starvation in Africa, or tsunamis in the Indian Ocean? We feel powerless in the face of the overwhelming power of an entrenched world order that is unconscious of our oneness as a species, a planet, a universe. We feel even more powerless when confronted with forces of nature that seem indifferent to human suffering. As long as we are convinced that the world's problems lie outside of ourselves, we are unlikely to believe we can make a significant difference. If what is out there is quite separate from us, we will tend to see situations as largely immune to our influence. The best we can hope for then is to fiddle with the facts, temporarily ameliorating the human condition, but never really transforming it. Hence the widespread belief that you can't change human nature. Our sense of powerlessness is compounded by media hype, advertising, political propaganda, formalized religion, and even the very social activism that is intended to bring change. All of these are forms of self-delusion, and that they keep us focused on problems as if their causes were out there somewhere. The leap our species needs to take involves a reorienting of our perspective. It involves realizing that all meaningful, all true change comes about first through personal inner work. In trying to treat the problems we are facing, we ignore the only thing that actually matters, the quality of our inner state of being. It's here that the cause of our dysfunction lies. Consequently, solutions are always found on the inner plane. They emerge when we enter a place of heightened consciousness, experienced in inner stillness, which is often called presence. The power of stillness. What can we do to move to a higher state of consciousness? It has been said that one morning in Calcutta, India, Mother Teresa and her Sisters of Charity were running late for their visit to the first clinic on their daily round. As the cadre of nuns hurried along the streets of Calcutta that morning, Mother Teresa suddenly stopped in her tracks. Turning to her left, she looked down at a curb piled with street-side garbage. Walking over to the curb, she bent down. Out of the trash, she picked up a discarded premature infant, so small she could cradle it in the palm of one of her hands. The infant was in the crunched-up fetal position. As Mother Teresa gazed with love at this wee and weak creature, the child moved one arm, then the other, one foot, then the other, gradually opening fully like a flower to the warmth of Mother's love. This story is sometimes recounted to show the power of the inclusive, unconditional love Mother Teresa extended wherever she went. I suggest that there is another important lesson to be gleaned from this incident. The practice of the Sisters of Charity is to spend 2 hours at the beginning of each day in prayer and stillness. On this particular morning, they had spent more than the allotted time, which is why they were running late. Had Mother Teresa not spent so much time in stillness, would she have had the presence to be alerted to the tiny manifestation of presence by the side of the road? The sisters understood that the greatest power on earth is stillness. It's in that all-encompassing spaciousness we experience within as we are still, that we experience the field of omnipotence and omniscience, out of which all in the visible world is born, as well as our thought forms, emotions, and experiences. When you are in stillness, you come to experience the presence of God within you. It has been said, God is closer to you than hands and feet. What is closer to you than your hands and feet? The animating life force, which Eckhart Tolle calls the inner body, which you can experience when in a state of stillness. It has also been said, God is closer to you than your breath. What can be closer to you than your breath? The inner witness, which is aware of your breath. This too can be experienced only when you come from inner stillness. So anyone, through cultivating the practice of inner stillness, can access the presence of the divine within you. And because God does not play favorites, you know this same presence is within everyone, even though they may not yet be in touch with it, aware of it. When you live from presence, you live from a higher state of consciousness. Because of this, you are connected to and can feel the presence in everyone and everything. You come to see the other as yourself, and it is in this realization that our salvation lies. Eckhart Tolle said it beautifully. The true meaning of love is to see the other as yourself. When people join in a state of presence, there is oneness. This is what the word namaste in its extended definition means. I honor the place in you in which the entire universe dwells. I honor the place in you which is of love, of truth, of light, and of peace. When you are in that place in you, and I am in that place in me, we are one. The experience of stillness. The leap in consciousness we are about to take requires that we springboard into it from the foundation of inner stillness. This is what gives us the certainty that we are coming from our divine self and bringing presence into all that we do. It is what affords us the assurance that what we need to know at any given moment will be given, and that in our doings, we will be guided and supported by the divine dwelling in us. You will likely become comfortable with more and more nonverbal yet deep communication in your relationships as you start relating to others from a deeper place than surface thoughts and emotions. You will also experience an increasing delight in just sitting with yourself in stillness. Indeed, you will find that in stillness, you are least alone. How do you still the mind? By placing your attention on the present moment. A state of calmness arises in you when you do this. If you notice that you have drifted away from the present moment, bring your attention gently back to it. A quiet mind is unfamiliar to most of us, so we have to learn how to experience such a state. We will only recognize stillness after our mental chatter subsides. It is important not to effort in order to bring your attention into the present moment. A still mind is not a forced mind. It is a mind at ease. Any effort to stay in the now comes from thinking about what you need to do, and thinking is not stillness. It is important not to make any judgment about how effective you are in holding to the present moment, because all such judgment involves thinking. You cannot break free from mental chatter by using your mind. When you begin the practice of sitting in stillness, simply pay attention to the present moment. This is the opposite of concentration. Concentration is an exercise of thought. It requires a tight mental focus. By its nature, it isolates and restricts. You cannot enter stillness by concentrating. Paying attention to the present moment is more of a full-body experience. There is a spaciousness about it. All you need do is observe. Notice what the present moment contains. Feel what it feels like. Witness your breathing. Be open to all of your senses. To sit in stillness is to allow everything to be as it is. Exclude nothing from your awareness. This includes the whirring of the fan, the ticking of the clock, the noise of the traffic outside. It also includes any thoughts that come to you or emotions that arise. If you try to exclude anything from stillness, you are in resistance. It's impossible to be still and to be in resistance at the same time. So while you are abiding inwardly in stillness, you are aware of and accept everything that is taking place on the inner plane, as well as in the outer world around you. Your intent is to become so anchored in stillness that you approach everything you do from this state of stillness. It is in stillness that the greatest power is released. That which cannot be grasped is at motionless work, filling you with divine manna, which will nourish all of your conscious thoughts, words, and actions. When you are inwardly still, you get in touch with your own essence. How good it feels to be who you truly are. As already mentioned, once you are in touch with the life within, you come to realize this same life force is within everybody. We all share in the same animating presence. As you continue to spend time in stillness, cultivating awareness of your inner presence, you begin to feel that same presence, that aliveness in the people and world around you, as did Mother Teresa. An important meeting is before you. A key decision needs to be made soon. You feel wobbly after a crisis hits, or a situation has arisen unexpectedly and you don't know how to respond. Part 2 shows how to address such challenges by entering into stillness. This purposeful entering into stillness is demonstrated by Jesus. The townsfolk caught a woman in the act of adultery and brought her to him to ask if they were not right in stoning her to death for breaking the law. The woman's accusers were certain they had Jesus cornered. Was he going to openly advocate breaking the law? Jesus was on the spot. In that critical moment, how did he respond? Instead of panicking, he entered into stillness. Bending down, he began writing in the dust. We have no evidence of what he wrote, or even that he wrote anything meaningful. I see his writing in the sand as a delay tactic. The townsfolk wanted Jesus' response immediately, yet Jesus knew that he had to first go into stillness to access his answer. What came forth from that moment of stillness are some of the most powerful words ever spoken. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Presented with this challenge, the townsfolk themselves were now on the spot. One by one, they slunk away, leaving the woman standing alone with Jesus. All creation originates in stillness. Stillness is the field of infinite potentiality out of which we create our reality, our world. All fresh answers come out of stillness. It is through stillness that all perplexing issues are solvable. When we live our lives from the inside out, what I call our inner knower alerts us to all that we need to know. We stop seeking fulfillment outside ourselves, and we enjoy an inner contentment and confidence in living. The external, fear-evoking world loses its hold on us. How wonderful to abide in stillness, this no thing that is the womb of everything. When we live from inner stillness, we are anchored in our divine self. Then anything we do in the world is imbued with divinity. The more we enter into stillness, the more our presence perfumes all we say and do. When you abide regularly in stillness, you come to realize that there is no need to seek anything, including solutions, outside of yourself. It is in stillness that you access the omniscience of your inner knower. Just ask the question and watch for the answer or guidance to be given when it is needed, though perhaps not a moment before. You will know at the time you need to know. I experienced this when, for over 10 years, I was practicing as a management consultant. I was blessed with always working with colleagues who were spiritually conscious. Often, before we entered a client's office, boardroom, or a retreat center to facilitate corporate planning or a conflict resolution session, we allowed ourselves time to enter into stillness. During the facilitation that followed, we maintained this stillness. This enabled us to perceive the hidden oneness of everyone present at the meeting, which became the basis for identifying common interests and bringing people together. Sometimes at these sessions, we did little talking. We simply listened from a state of stillness, intervening only as stillness prompted. I expressed to my colleagues after one such session, it's hard to charge the client my full per diem rate, because on the outward activity level, I did or said almost nothing. Frequently, when long-standing conflicts and ingrained office politics looked like they would win the day, my colleague and I would turn up the intensity dial on our inner stillness. Many times the situation appeared hopeless, yet the right guidance came to us from inner stillness, and what appeared to be miracles happened. Old hurts and entrenched negative patterns dissolved before our eyes as conflicts were resolved and agreements reached, and almost always just in time for lunch. I muse that in the near future, stillness will be recognized as the way to solve differences in relationships as well as tackle our planet's problems. I envision a day when couples and families will regularly take time out to sit in stillness together before having dinner or entering some activity or serious conversation. When corporations, institutions, and governments, seeing the value of stillness, happily sanction stillness breaks. Imagine a workplace in which people are truly present with each other. Presence is contagious. If you have only one or two people in a group who hold to presence, it will affect the whole group. This is the power of an authentic spiritual teacher. Coming from a deep well of presence, they invite others to join them there. The power of presence in just one individual can be seen in Hermann Hesse's Journey to the East. It is the story of various individuals who join together in a temporary community to go on a pilgrimage. Their destination is purposely not mentioned by Hesse, as he does not see that as important in terms of a focus in the story. Initially, everything goes smoothly. The pilgrims get along together and cover a good distance every day. The reader is soon introduced to a simple, quiet, happy, and unaffected fellow named Leo, who always seems to be around at the right time, cheerfully helping out in whatever manner he can. There is something so pleasing and welcoming about Leo that everyone loves his presence. Then one day, Leo suddenly disappears without explanation. Where did Leo go is the burning question. And how could he leave without telling us? A search party is formed to try to find him, but to no avail. With Leo gone, relationships become strained. Bickering and arguing break out, becoming worse and worse. The narrator, whom the reader assumes is Hesse himself, soon loses interest in the pilgrimage and his quest. He abandons the group, but carries with him an obsession with knowing more about Leo and the reason for his sudden departure. This takes him on his own journey, a solo pilgrimage, during which, no matter where he visits, he is always on the lookout for Leo and never abandons the hope that they will someday meet again. 10 years pass before he stumbles across a lead. The name Andreas Leo, given to him by a person who is helping him with research on a project. The narrator sets out to discover whether this could indeed be the Leo he has been searching for all along. When he locates Andreas Leo, he stops him on the street and they engage in conversation. Yes, this is the Leo who left the pilgrim group so many years earlier, but he does not recognize the narrator. Leo has to get back to his work, and the two part. Only later does the narrator find out that the unassuming Leo is actually president of the league that sponsored the pilgrimage in the first place. The reader, like the actual pilgrims, becomes aware that Leo has something special within him that has such a positive influence on others, an ability to bring very different people together for a common goal. Robert Greenleaf, in Servant Leadership, attributes Leo's positive influence on others to the fact that he played a servant role within the group. The evolution of our consciousness now tells us that the something very special in Leo was his inner presence. Exuding a strong field of presence, he drew this same presence out in other people. On several occasions, I have shared this story when giving talks, encouraging participants to leave the workshop as Leos, bringing their healing presence into their world. Stillness in the corridors of power. In a chartered bus trip through Ireland, 3 women engaged in conversation in response to a news article they had read that morning about global violence. "I don't see why such violence has to continue," said one of the women. "I don't see why we cannot live in peace." The other 2 women reacted, "Oh, come on, you are talking Pollyanna. We are never going to change the way the world is. It's always been like this." But the world has changed and will continue to change. If you are reading this now, you surely must believe that there is a way to reduce personal suffering and to achieve world peace. When people come together and sit in stillness, surface differences can dissolve. As they go beyond the artificial barriers that separate them, they may become aware that they are each an expression of the same universal presence. When you are attuned to presence, your oneness becomes evident. A peace can then enter the relationship. You are given the opportunity to let go of former experiences and judgments of each other, becoming open to new directions and fresh ways of relating. Let's envision the day coming, and coming soon, when the world's leaders sit together in stillness prior to and periodically during their deliberations. When their course of action is unclear, there will be no haggling or jockeying for national advantage, no cajoling, haranguing, or threatening. They will know it is time for a different kind of ceasefire and enter into a tryst with stillness. Whenever creative solutions are required so that the needs of all are met, leaders will retreat from the world to replenish their souls. By entering into stillness, they will be able to leave their habitual thinking patterns behind, creating space for new perceptions to guide them. Retreating into stillness is always followed by a creative phase. Out of this time out, novel solutions to long-standing problems can arise. By entering into stillness and invoking a deep spiritual wisdom, the leaders of the future will know the noble course to take. Jesus recognized the power of retreating into stillness. The night before his crucifixion, face to face with the most important decision of his earthly life, he went into the Garden of Gethsemane to pray. A stone's throw from his disciples, he uttered an agonizing request. It was addressed to his true self, the presence he called "My Father." Was there any way to avoid the execution that lay ahead of him? This was the only question he asked. Then he became still and waited. After an hour, he checked on his disciples who had fallen asleep. Again going aside to be alone, he uttered the same words, becoming silent and waiting yet another full hour. Again, checking on the disciples, who were still sleeping, he returned to pray a third time, asking the same question. There was no proliferation of words and no begging or pleading, simply the one question. As Jesus' thoughts quieted down and his emotions became still, the answer finally came. If he was to maintain his integrity, living in the world in the only way to be true to himself, he knew what he must do. Once this clarity, this certainty, came from his inner knower, he went forward to his crucifixion without regret and in complete surrender. Our need for a noble vision. The Leap is admittedly a visionary book, but necessarily so, for where there is no vision, the people perish. Action to attain the vision state. It is up to each of us to create a vision for our personal world, then live our lives in such a way that we start closing the gap between what we are currently experiencing, which falls short, and our vision of what we would like to see. This is what the Leap is asking us to do. Establish a vision of what our highest self wants, then take action to make it a reality. When you are engaged in something or drawn into a situation or argument, ask yourself the question, what does this have to do with the leap I want to make? The causative level of everything is within. We can be so tempted to address external issues and believe that by fiddling with effects, we are making changes. But nothing really changes unless the change is initiated from our inner being. Causes we become involved in need to flow from our inner state, concurrent with our deepening consciousness. There are many noble causes. However, if we are not attentive, we can let ourselves get drawn into all sorts of diversions. Making the leap requires a focus, an ongoing attention to our vision. The leap points us back to our inner work, shifts in perception, acceptance of truth, which only we can accomplish. I muse that soon there will be a level of international leadership that will articulate a noble global vision for all of humanity. Then call on each and every one of us to move together towards achieving that vision. Do dream. Dream of the time when the leaders of nations function not from fear, but from inner presence. Dream of a world in which we deal with each other from a sense of our oneness as a species. Dream of each and every one of us accepting the responsibility of being custodians of human life and of this planet. Imagine what could emerge if, instead of posturing to save face before their publics, the emissaries of nations set aside issues of national and personal ego and sought solutions that would benefit all concerned. Imagine if, individually and collectively, they entered into stillness, and from there sought answers to the world's troubles. As Henry David Thoreau told us, we should go right ahead and build our castle in the air, as long as we remember, after doing so, to put the foundation under it. This concludes tonight's Bedtime Stories. And if the call for a dream of peace and stillness has caught your interest, you can follow up by reading The Leap. Are You Ready to Live a New Reality? By Constance Kellogg. And now, may you find your own dreams in a deep and restorative sleep.